Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, episode 480. I'm your host, Michael. Joining me this evening, Daniel from 4 Boxing News and the Inscriber. What's going on, Daniel?
What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Hopefully, everybody is enjoying the arrival of March.
Hopefully, we'll have Gil from NY Fights later on during the show. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Box Report, Pound for Pound Box Report, live YouTube show, podcast discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns sweet science, it will get discussed. If you want to find out all information, please check out the description below. You'll see links to where to find us on uh, the YouTube channel, where to find us on Facebook, uh, Twitter, IG. Also, we have links where if you want to donate, let donation be the best nation. Cash, me, and PayPal donation links are available and active. If you wish to drop us a little coin, be it $1, $2, $5, whatever you want to contribute, it'll greatly benefit, particularly when it comes to productions behind the scene. Last but certainly not least, yours truly is an ambassador. Yours truly and Pound for Pound Box Report, excuse me, are ambassadors for Nivrod fragrances for those who are in the smell good game. MICHAELW P4P. Let me repeat that again. MICHAELW P4P. Use that use that code, that discount code, and you'll get 15% off on any and all um, products on Nivrod fragrances. Um, be it the actual colognes, be it the body care products, be it full size bottle or travel size. Let's get things going this evening, Daniel. Not a light weekend, but a significant weekend nonetheless. So, as a result, this is not going to be a lengthy show, at least I hope. Let's go down to Mexico City. That was the showcase fight of the. That's where the showcase fight and card of the weekend occurred. Unification contest at 130 pounds between Emmanuel Navarrete and um, Sugar Nunez, Eduardo Sugar Nunez, right? And when we previewed the show last week, we kind of had a difference of opinion. I came in, I had questions about Navarrete due to the number of tough fights, due to the fact that, let's face it, he hasn't shown much discipline in terms of his diet, in terms of keeping his weight down on a consistent basis throughout his career. You still went, so I went with Nunez. You still went with Navarrete. And turns out you were right, and I'm the one with egg on my face, right? Because, excuse me, we did the show, and then I found out afterwards that for the first time in his career, Navarrete hired a nutritionist throughout his for the full camp, and then you saw the weigh-in, and it was clear he didn't struggle to make weight. And joining us right now, Gail from nyfights.com. What's going on, Gail?
Hey, thank you. I'm jumping on a little late for the chat, but we were getting into it. And, Michael, I'll defend you. You hardly had egg on your face because Navarrete was actually the betting underdog. Not by a lot, but he looked awful against Suarez. I was ringside for that fight. He should have lost the fight. He is very, very fortunate that the replay angle that confirmed he'd been cut by a punch wasn't available until the next day, and it ended up being a no contest. But he struggled mightily against Suarez. And knowing that, nobody would ever criticize somebody for seeing Nunez as the fresher fighter and the guy ready for an upset.
And instead, um, Navarrete was outstanding in this bout. As far as I'm concerned, he controlled matters from the opening bell. Uh, Made terrific use of his greater advantage in height and particularly length. Right, smart fight on his behalf, not just a tough fight. Daniel and Gail, I'll start the conversation with you, Daniel, as he punished Nunez largely from outside, right? Nunez begins to swell up over the right eye, and it got to a point where he was just been in there taking a beating. Corner
Mm-hmm.
referee made the wise decision. Ringside doctors made the wise decision to stop the action in round 11. Overall, Navarrete, arguably the most impressive performance, the best performance of his career at this weight, particularly at this weight. I hadn't seen him that dominant, Daniel, really since his days at 122 pounds.
Yeah, it was a return to form in many ways for Navarrete because it just takes the right team in order to put things back on track. And him adding a nutritionist, something that in his previous fights, it has been an issue with him either trying to maintain the weight or him trying to get to cut the weight. It was an issue that not only affected his performance, but it also affected everything else leading to that fight. Probably the Suarez fight was that tipping point where he said, "I need to get this together," and it showed because he was naturally the bigger man. We have to admit, he was naturally the bigger man against Nunez, but he didn't go in try to blitz him. He fought him. Even though he did almost the volume that you would expect for Navarrete, but he also outboxed him. He also used the distance. He made sure that Nunez wasn't able to get in and try to dig at the inside of the body because that's pretty much Nunez's only chance against somebody that had that height and that reach advantage of a Navarrete. And it was an overall great performance. And you can debate whether or not the corner should have stopped it because his face was getting a bit blooded, a bit puffy. It was pretty much the theme of the card. But at the end of the day, it was clear as day who was going to win. And Navarrete looks to be refreshed. He looks to be more focused and ready. And if this is the team that he has now, the avenues are a lot more open for him when it comes to defenses. And I even see some people say that if he has this, he can do 135. Let's take baby steps, folks. Let's take baby steps. He looked good right over here, 130. 135, though, it's a different monster.
Right. I agree 100%. As I go to Gail, from 126 to 130, certainly, dare I say, he is the guy in those weight ranges, right? You in terms of future opponents, Gail, you got Oshaki Foster, right? Um, you got the winner of Dickens and Kakache. Um, you could even pose a rematch with someone like you got Ray Ford, right? We'll talk about Foster and Ford in a little bit, but there's a good crop of fighters at 126. Uh, I could see a Figueroa. He has the frame that he could potentially move up to 130, as does Bruce Carrington, right? Even in Espinoza, that would be a fantastic fight. Espinoza going up to 130 to fight a Navarrete. That being the case, at age 31, Navarrete bolstered himself with this kind of performance.
This is his best performance in years, years. Maybe for sure since his first fight with Oscar Valdez, and maybe even his best fight since Isaac Dogbe. Really a tremendous performance. Yeah, the nutritionist, what a change. How he has managed to get this far in his career in 14 years and never employed a nutritionist is crazy. And he has taken all kinds of hell and comments about him being the skinniest dad bod in boxing. He's always kind of been a little soft. he was in phenomenal condition. And if you noticed by the end of that fight, as much volume punching and mixing it up as he did for all those rounds with Nunez, he didn't have a mark on him. He wasn't breathing hard. He looked like he could go another 12. He really did. So whatever he invested in his nutritionist, tip your nutritionist and put them on contract permanently from here on out. So there are options for him. And when he was asked about them, he refused to be pushed into an answer. He was very polite about it, but said, I'm tired. I want to take a little break. I want to think about it. Yeah, and then I'll let you know what we decide. So he's got options that are both within the top rank stable and outside. I do think from the fans' point of interest, if we're talking unification, certainly in North America, Usyk Foster is the right choice. He's got that beautiful green belt that all Mexicans want from the WBC. So that's got to be appealing. It's completely makeable between Top Rank and PBC. The question is that Top Rank still does not have its own platform. And I'm not sure they'd want to burn, a triple belt unification fight without their own platform. Now, maybe they are going to be forced into doing so. Who knows? There are some options inside the Top Rank stable. Again, I sincerely doubt they would want to go with their Top Rank Fast/Classics streaming channel that's available on a lot of platforms and it's free. But for people who aren't adept with streaming, it's not the easiest thing to find. And, it's really tough to get the right exposure and money from something like that. So, for example, there have been, comments about, well, do you think Top Rank would ever tee him up against Ray Murataya? Interesting fight. You think Rafael Espinoza, another very tall fighter for his division, would he like to come up and face Navarrete? He's a WBO champion. That's a possibility. I got to say, I would love to see that fight. I don't think it's practical, at least not right now, especially if he's aiming at unification. I do think from a platform and a makeable standpoint, it would be hard to make the fight between whoever wins between Dickens and Kakachi. And I would hope it would be Kakachi. He probably has a little bit better of a name in North America than Jazza Dickens does. And then the question is, where do they do it? Do they do it in Mexico? Do they do it in the UK? I think Navarrete is a bigger draw here than Kakache and Navarrete would be there, but that remains to be seen. No matter what option he goes for, wow, it is great to see Navarrete back in this kind of form. He turned back the clock 10 years at least. It was truly impressive.
Slight correction. Foster is technically with Top Rank, so if that fight were to happen,
there you go.
In-house
So
fight.
that would be
It would be an in-house fight.
Yeah.
Comment here from Compliance here in the live chat. He says that I was surprised that Nunez circled the ring like that for the first few rounds. Bring on Navarrete versus Foster. I think that I was too at a certain point, but again, Navarrete did an excellent job of using his reach for this fight, and one of the thing that makes him unique is he throws punches at odd angles. Maybe Sugar Nunez should have figured that out or done something before the fight, given the familiarity between the two. But sometimes you in that ring and things are different when you see it live. Overall, still, in spite of that outstanding performance by Navarrete, who's now unified champion in the world, is his oyster. He is the cash cow right now at 130 pounds on the undercard. Gail, Emiliano Vargas, right? one of the top prospects in all of boxing, dare I say. Um, First kind of real test on the undercard against a guy by the name of Quintana. I felt that for the most part, he pretty much was in control. There was moments where Quintana looked dangerous, but Vargas, he ended up getting the decision. The time is now. Okay, we've seen him enough where we can kind of get a baseline of what he is so far. And for me, him and his team needs to step up and put him to the next level. French contender by the end of this year, I think that's a distinct possibility. He's ready for that at least.
He might be ready, but consider his age. He's 21 years old. So, there is no reason for Top Rank to hustle him. And again, this is all complicated by the fact that Top Rank is still out there tap dancing around, placing its fighters on other platforms because they are without broadcast home. And that's the comment about
I have a
Navarrete
bit of breaking news about that, but we can talk about that in a
being a
news session.
challenge. Well, there is discussion. There is apparently reports of discussion that Top Rank and ESPN are back in the negotiating table. We'll see what happens. So if that's the case, they don't want to rush him. And they probably don't want to rush him anyway. He has he has massive potential. And there are no finer matchmakers in boxing, and no company knows how to move up prospects quite like Top Rank. They've done it for so many. Look what they've done with Abdullah Mason, who actually probably moved a little faster than they wanted them to. That's that's the gold standard, which they need to do. This was the perfect fight for Vargas. They knew what they had in Quintana. He took apart Mark Castro when he was supposed to be just a stair step sort of challenger. They knew he'd be tough. They knew he'd be very difficult to stop. And technically Vargas did not stop Quintana. The referee stopped it due to the damage Quintana was taking, and Quintana was irate. Unlike Nunez, who could not see out of his right eye for the 2 rounds he soldiered on until they finally came to their senses and stopped that fight. Quintana had cuts on either side of both eyes. He probably had his nose broken in the second round, but he was carrying on. The cuts weren't great, but they weren't impairing his vision. They were under control, at least between rounds. And when that fight was stopped, Quintana popped off his stool. It was done between rounds, and he was irate. He was yelling, "No, no, no!" But nevertheless, it is a TKO win for Vargas. He was candid. He was very blunt about his performance. He said he gave himself a C. I'd give him a B minus. And he was forced to really think about what he needed to do, what adjustments he needed to make. He took a few hard shots. He weathered them well. This is exactly what a 21-year-old with lots of upside needs exactly at this point of his career. So if they give Navarrete, if they give Vargas a few more fights like this year, great. At the end of the fight, he said, "I want to fight a former world champion, if not a title, by the end of this year." Let me make a prediction right now on the pound for pound report. I would not be surprised if Top Rank makes themselves a phone call in the next couple of months to one Richard Comey, who's earned a lot of paychecks from Top Rank testing their fighters on their way up.
Interesting, interesting. Um, Comey is not what he was. Um,
But
after his,
he
go
is
ahead.
coming off a win last year. He hasn't been in the ring for quite a few months. But I'm trying to think that his last loss where he got blown out. But he's had a win since then. So, they could justify it. And he is tough. He comes in prepared. He's a name. Wouldn't be surprised by it.
not. I wouldn't be surprised. You throw up an opponent that would make sense. If you're talking about top rank in the development of young Vargas, who can fight and has a backstory. Let's just say he has a story that the public will gravitate to, and he kind of has that it factor in terms of how he looks and how he presents himself outside the ring for sure. Someone to definitely keep your eyes on moving forward. Let's get to the news here, and I mentioned Oshaki Foster, right? Daniel and Gail, get both of you into this discussion. Oshaki Foster was mentioned prominently during our talk about our recap of Navarrete and Sugar Nunez in terms of a future opponent for Navarrete. Well, Oshaki Foster, who has the WBC belt at 130 pounds, he was ringside, right? Uh, Doing some eye hustling in terms of the main event, but he made news for getting into it with Raymond Ford, former world champion at 126 pounds, has moved up to 130. Um, Ford back in August, um, when he beat Nova, Supernova, said that he wants to fight Foster. They've been going back and forth a bit on social media, but they got into each other's face to face for some good old style trash talking. Daniel, um, Foster said that Ford is not ready. Ford replied in kind, saying he's going to do this to uh, Shock Foster. I'm already hearing that there's a contract that's already on the table. Do not be surprised uh, the spring, early summer, if we see those two settle their differences in the ring.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun. That is gonna be fun. It's the type of fight that you kind of want Oshaki Foster to have because we know he's very sound. He's defensively minded. He knows how to guide things in the ring, but he needs somebody to bring out the aggressor in him. And Ford has done a pretty good job of doing that by the way they've been talking and the way they're talking on social media. Now, it's true. Navarrete is the cash cow now at 130. And that is a tantalizing payday. But there's always something about an old guard, like not so much an old guard fighter in Oshaki Foster, wanting to teach the young pup and Ford a little bit of a lesson. And that's a very exciting fight. If the contract is there, I would say, yeah, take it. Give Navarrete a little bit time to rest. See how his body adjusts. See if he can replicate this with this team. And if we have Ford versus Foster, have him pick the winner.
Indeed, Gail. I'm hearing word that Alashik is wanting to do a Riyadh season um, in Mexico in September. Wants Navarrete to be main event, if not co-main event, of that potential card. So yeah, Foster and Ford fight early spring. The winner fights Navarrete September in Mexico. I know it may make too much sense given this is boxing, but it does make sense.
Yeah, it's the perfect kind of fight if you're trying to stack up a undercard. Now, the only question is if they're looking to do a fight in Mexico with only Mexican fighters, which might close the door, similar to what was done with the Latino night card that featured Zurdo Ramirez in the main event. So remains to be seen. There are good options for Foster and Ford. There are a lot of other platforms that, especially for a one-off, that's a title fight that could happen. We'll see. It's all going to depend on, whether they're are they going to take this fight, settle it among themselves first, and the winner gets Navarrete? Or do they both want a shot at the big dog? well, it's nice to have options. It's always nice to have options.
Indeed, indeed. So we'll see in terms of Shockwalks and Ford um, whether that fight can get finalized. Excuse me. I think it will. It makes sense. Top Rank and DAZN have um, come together to make fights before. I mean, hell, when Rain Ford won the featherweight title, he went over and fought on ESPN Top Rank at the time. Hearn was able to make that fight, so they were able to do that. I'm sure that they could work something out, and top ranking matchroom could come together to make this fight between those two. Excellent fight on paper. I will make Shock Foster the early favorite, but I think it will be an entertaining, close, even matchup for sure. Other news here. If you guys have any news, additional news, let me know. Oleksandr Usyk. Well, now last week we talked a lot about these rumors that he may sign with Zuffa Boxing hours before the live show last week. Usyk said that something big was coming, which led to feud speculation all over boxing, Twitter in particular. Turns out he's not signing with Zuffa, but he is returning to the ring in May to fight famed kickboxer Rico Verhoeven. Side eye, plenty of side eye from plenty of folks within the boxing community. But you know what, Gail? I am going to give Usyk a one off. Why? Because going back to his cruiserweight days, he's been doing nothing but fighting and beating top fighter after top fighter after top fighter after top fighter, back to back to back to back to back. At this stage, why not give him a bit of a pass for this? Why not? Um, Former undisputed champion at heavyweight and cruiserweight. Would I like to see him fight Caballero? Absolutely. But I'm not gonna be that mad at this, especially if he eventually turns around and fights Caballero in the future.
100%. I do not begrudge Oleksandr Usyk finally getting the chance to earn big money, for one of these misfits, crossover stunt type of fights. Listen, Tyson Fury's done it. Anthony Joshua's done it. Jake Paul, Francis Ngannou, we goes all the way back to Floyd Mayweather and Conor McGregor. If you want to blame anybody for touching this brush fire off, you can blame Floyd and Conor. I don't begrudge him at all. It appears that this is something he considers fun. There's no way in hell Rico Verhoeven will be competitive. Yes, he's considered the greatest heavyweight kickboxer of all time. He has a phenomenal record. He's fought through Glory, which is the kickboxing platform. He's extremely famous in Europe. And apparently, the suggestion for this matchup was made by Peter Fury, because Rico's tight with the Fury family, of all things. And Peter is going to train Rico for his fight with Usyk. They have set up this interesting location. Now, it's supposed to be at the pyramids in Giza. What does that mean exactly? Are they going to put a ring with the pyramids in the backdrop? It's likely to be a bit toasty outside in Egypt in late May. How's this going to be set up exactly? Is it going to be in the shadow of the pyramids, meaning they're off in the distance somewhere? Who knows? So there's got to be some appeal for that. Apparently, there's plenty of money behind it and interest. So, as stunt fights go, listen, Oleksandr Usyk has done more than enough to have earned this pass. Now, the only question in my mind is it really going to be for the WBC World Heavyweight title? Really? Rico Verhoeven gets the shot without being ranked whatsoever as a boxer? Eh, that's pressing their luck. But even still, we do not know what Usyk has in mind in his future after this. Is this going to be his farewell? If it is, I don't really care what he does. All the belts are starting to be in play. When he decided that he did not want to face Joseph Parker, he gave up the WBO belt. That's his right. Very few fighters hold on to those four belts, for lengthy periods of time. And hell, Usyk earned back. He already had given up belts, earned them back. So he's been two-time undisputed at heavyweight. He's been a cruiserweight undisputed champion. He was an outstanding gold medal Olympian and amateur. He owes us nothing. This is now his time to do whatever he's going to do in boxing for himself. I wouldn't also be surprised if the motivation also lie primarily in what he wants to do for his country. He firmly believes that when he gets into the ring with lots of eyes on him, he is representing all of Ukraine. He is putting Ukraine on a world stage. These are the kind of fights that go way beyond the casual boxing fans, the hardcore fans, to the sports fans of the world. That's a pretty big stage if you want to call attention to what's going on in your country. And I wouldn't be surprised if he intends to give some of his purse back to a cause in Ukraine. Who can get mad about that? There has been a lot of shade, a lot of hate thrown towards this fight. And I've got to say, given the excitement about some of the other stunt fights, I'm not sure why people aren't giving Usyk a pass on this one. I certainly am.
Listen. Um, did they have the same reaction to Fury and Ngannou? To Ngannou Joshua? Jake Paul's entire quote unquote professional fight career? If you didn't have the energy that folks are giving to this fight, give that same energy to all those other fights. You can't do that. You're being a bit hypocritical, as far as I'm concerned. Like, again, my thing is contingent on the fact that he gets this out the way and fights Caballero next, because Caballero deserves his opportunity and Long deserves his opportunity. But excuse me, I'm not gonna uh rag Usyk too hard on this, given what he's done throughout his career, Daniel.
Yeah, this is a situation where he's effectively fought everybody.
Right.
Like I mentioned last week, the only person of high note in the heavyweight division that Usyk has not fought has been Deontay Wilder. And fighting Deontay Wilder at this stage, it's not something that, even if you win easily, which Usyk would, it wouldn't be something that you want to hang your hat on. So between this, finding Caballero, we know there's still possibility also Wardley. Why you can't excuse it for one gimme fight, especially considering what this is going to be, apparently in Egypt by the pyramids. So why not let him do this one bit? Like we've seen heavyweight champions do similar things. Should we remind people of Muhammad Ali versus Antonio Inoki? Like, fighters, all the time guys have done something like this. And in an era where Usyk has pretty much taken care of everybody, he can do it. Now, if he doesn't fight Caballero or Wardley next, then we have a problem. then it
Right.
becomes an issue. But this time around, no, you gotta give him Mulligan. He's more than earned it. Think about it. The arguably, well, but obviously the best cruiserweight of his generation. You can make the case for greatest cruiserweight of all time, and then went straight to the heavyweight division. Basically, took on all comers and came out unscathed. And
And cleaned it out twice over, not just once, but twice.
yeah, like he mentally broke Anthony Joshua to the point where he has not been the same at all since. So with that in mind, like I said, you can't excuse it for a little bit. Let the man have a little bit of fun. I'm like, the guy does look like a serial killer at times. Let him do some wacky stuff. Come on.
Yeah, indeed, indeed, indeed. Let's move. Before we move on to previews of whatever, any other news that y'all been hearing in these boxing streets?
I will jump in. The full undercard for the upcoming fight between Tyson Fury and Makhmudov, Arslanbek Makhmudov, has been announced. Um, I would not say that there were any crazy bits of news from that. We all knew, due to last week's announcement, that we have as the co-main event Conor Benn versus Regis Prograis, who last I heard was going to become a bare knuckle fighter, but apparently not. Also added to the main card to be streamed on Netflix will be a heavyweight fight between Jamie TKV and Richard Riakporhe, which will make the British fans very happy. Also, another heavyweight fight between Fraser Clark and Justice Hooney, both of whom need a win. And then there is, let me count them on my fingers, a half dozen prelim fights. Those will be seen on Netflix streaming subchannel todoom.com and The Ring's YouTube channel. So those will be available even if you don't have a Netflix subscription, obviously trying to tee up interest in the main card. And probably the best known name, which should tell you something about who's on this undercard, is Felix Cash, who's going to fight Liam O'Hare, and other fights on the list. Actually, there's a up and coming prospect named Brayon Gorham. He's also on the card.
Any other news that you want to break right now, Daniel, or do you just want to go to previews?
The only main thing that I saw, like I said, other than like we mentioned it already here, the main reason why Top Rank has to go back to ESPN. Uh, an interesting fight got added to the March 14th Golden Boy card. Alexis Rocha versus Jojo Diaz. A pretty good crossroads fight between both of them fighters. Obviously, each had their own little hits. They had their misses as well. And that's going to be turned into itself into a very interesting scrap, I believe. And coming in literally with 2 weeks away.
Those are both extremely popular fighters in Southern California, in particular in kind of the southern LA County, Orange County. They're both Orange County based fighters. So this is a fight taking place in Orange County, California, in Anaheim. So that's a butts in the seats fight. Both guys are big time draws in their neighborhoods. And this is a win or go home fight for both of these guys. They've both been roughed up a bit, uh, but they have been good soldiers for Golden Boy. They've done everything asked of them and then some. They've taken some hits. They've come on back. Um, Diaz has been struggling, but everybody remembers. Just speaking of Regis Prograis, that barn burner he put on with Prograis. Both of them well past their primes, yet they were matched well. This is probably a very similar fight, potentially, like the Diaz and Prograis fight. And, nobody's going to hate that.
And at the very least, it should make for a good scrap. This despite the fact that both fighters are on the downslide um, of their careers. Let's move on to preview some fights. One fight now that's really noteworthy, again, another like weekend in boxing. The debut of Jai Opetaia on Zuffa Boxing, right? He left matchroom for Zuffa, IBF Cruiserweight champion, defending that belt against Brandon Glanton. From what I've seen of him from what I've seen of Glanton, um, in the loss against Billum Smith and the win against Marcus Brown, whose best days were at like heavyweight, right? Not for nothing against Glanton, you know, honest, hard worker, right? Aggressive, looks to be physically strong, but from a technical standpoint, if Opetaia doesn't fight stupid and uses his skills and his brain, that along with his power, I don't see him having too many problems here in this upcoming title defense.
Ooh, that's not good. This is
That's
probably
for
going to
you,
be
Gail.
interesting.
Unmute your mic, please.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't think you wanted to come back to me quite that fast. Daniel hasn't had much of a say here for the last few minutes. Yeah, this is meant to make Obatiah look good. Now, from what I've heard from him in interviews and previews, he is taking the right attitude of, I want to be the unified, undisputed cruiserweight champion. I can't get there unless I win this fight. I got to take care of my business. It's his first fight in the United States. It's his first fight in Las Vegas. Yeah, it's in the Zuffa Apex, the Meta Apex, which has been expanded to a whole 1,100 seats. It's a little tiny arena. But you know what? Opetaia has blown that off, saying, listen, I get it. It's not the biggest venue, step by step. It's, one more step to my goal. I'm going to take it. I plan to put on a show. And, he knows that he can make a big splash doing this. And he understands what his position is with Zuffa as by far their biggest signing, their most impressive signing to date. Now, here's the question that apparently nobody can yet verify. He is the IBF champion. This is being advertised as him fighting for the Zuffa belt. That's fine. Is this an IBF title defense? Well, we might find that out if there's a rehydration weigh-in on Saturday, day before the fight. This is a Sunday night fight on Paramount Plus. And it's possible that he could fight with his IBF belt in play and that it is a title defense, and Paramount and Zuffa's team, broadcast team, doesn't mention it. It's not on the graphics. It's under the radar. That does happen. I mean, we've seen those, silly little chippy cat fights, over things like this, where one promoter doesn't want another guy's titles mentioned, and the broadcasters, there's all kinds of fights over it. So that's going to be a curious question. Now, Opetaia has made it clear that Zuffa will give him the leeway to fight for the other belts. And clearly, if his sole focus is to become undisputed, he had to have gone into this with his co-promoters, Tasman Fighters, who still represent him, saying, I will be fighting for the other belts to become undisputed. So it's interesting early, negotiation, bit of a clash with what Zuffa has represented itself to the boxing world. We're not going to play with the sanctioning bodies. We're not screwing with them. We're going to set up our own deal. This is not that, but they may be selling it as, well, it's going to take some time to change things as we transition over. We respect the fighters and what they've been fighting for in the past, and we're going to give them some rope to do that. Yeah, so that's a possibility. And Opetaia certainly wants one of the other champions to face him this year. We'll see what happens.
And not for nothing, Daniel. In his last fight, Opetaia with Sankara, though he ended the matters in spectacular fashion, he wasn't satisfied with his performance. He got hurt in that fight. So from that perspective, he wants to be more thorough, more complete in this upcoming fight.
Yes, like this is pretty much the way Dana White likes to matchmake and book like people that he wants to impress. He puts against somebody that has done a decent enough job, but is not really a threat. This is pretty much an exhibition for, it should be an exhibition for Opetaia. The IBF situation is going to be very, very interesting because the other thing that we know that Dana White wants to do is to try to make Zuffa the end all and be all when it comes to boxing. It's something that he should learn that if La Cosa Nostra wasn't able to do it, he probably can't. But he also has to learn that he maybe has to play nice with Mauricio, play nice with Mendoza, play nice with Paco when it comes into those fights, because at the end of the day, we've already seen you make big signings, but they have also been short-term signing needs. The Conor Benn signing was literally for one fight. And if Conor Benn sees that, hey, this is not working, he can literally just jump right back to Eddie. So this should be a good showcase for Opetaia. I expect it to be a showcase for Opetaia, particularly after the last fight. We just got to see how the machinations work in that area, because hopefully we hear announcements involving the BF title. If we don't hear a discussion, but still kind of to the fence, then we got to start we have to start side-eyeing Dana White a lot more than we normally do.
Indeed, I better hear a call out should Opetaia win from the fighter as well as Zuffa Boxing that they want the winner of Zerto and David Benavidez. If we don't, and they're just going to continue to just go along to get along with Zuffa, and nothing comes from this in terms of him Opetaia fighting unification. I mean, what's the point? That would be disappointing. But I think we're going to end things on that note. It's probably going to be a very short show at the very beginning, and it was just that. I want to thank Compliance for his comments here in the chat. Though I didn't go ladies first this evening, I'm going to make sure to end with ladies first. Gail from nyfights.com for the folks who want to talk boxing. Let the folks know where they can find you and talk about briefly talk about your own channel here on YouTube.
I post all of my interviews with fighters and others from time to time on YouTube under Gail Falkenthal on Boxing. If you're watching this on YouTube, you see my name there. Google that thing, and you'll find me. I also am a writer for nyfights.com. That's where the boxing news goes. That's where the ringside coverage goes. My next fight will be at that Anaheim card on March 14th. I'll be ringside for that one.
And I'll go to you, Daniel. Daniel, for Boxing News Indian Scriber, for those who want to talk all things boxing, all things professional wrestling, and the NBA, especially when it comes to Miami Heat. Let the folks know where they can hit you up.
You see it on the socials, folks. Ruckus99, everywhere that it goes. Twitter, Blue Sky, IG, Spill, Mastodon. Pretty much I got it locked down when it comes to the name. Definitely catch me on there. Like, we're starting to pick up, folks. We're starting to luckily get everything going. We already had a good amount of fights and high caliber fights coming in so far this year. And we might want to keep ourselves entertained for the time being, because also we can't ignore the fact that the world may be burning in front of us as we're speaking.
Oh, let's not talk about that. Oh gosh. Oh yeah, just leave it what Daniel said, and I'll just move on. For those who want to talk boxing, music, fitness, and framers, you know what it is with me on Twitter, because I refuse to call it X. Brother JR at Brother JR76. To do so on IG, you can do so at Brother JRSC. as well as on Blue Sky. For though on the next episode, we will do a recap of Ajay Opetaia defending his IBF cruiserweight belt against Brandon Glanton, and we'll do a preview of pretty solid card on the weekend of the 14th. On the zone in Anaheim, California, Arnold Barboza fighting Kenneth Sims. Barboza Jr. Coming off of the light that lost to Teofimo Lopez um, last summer. On the undercard of that, Oscar Collazo defending his unified strawweight belts against Jesus Haro. Um, and one of my favorite fighters, regardless of gender, undisputed women's flyweight champion, Gabrielle Fendora. She defends her belts against Viviana Ruz Corredo. Again, no, that's going to be March 14th, Anaheim, California on the zone. We will preview those fights. Also in Dublin on the zone, Jaza Dinkins fighting Anthony Kakashi. John O'Carroll is fighting on the undercard of that. And we also will preview um, card happening in Yokohama, Japan on the 15th. One of your favorites, Daniel, knockout CP Freshmart. He gets back into the ring, defend his WBC belt at 108 pounds versus former world title challenger Shikochi Awata. That should be a good bout. Anthony Olaskawaga fighting in Japan again, um, defending his WBO 112-pound belt. He's fighting a fighter by the name of Lemura. And Nonito Donaire is fighting Riku Masuda
That man is
again.
crazy. That man is certifiable.
Yes, he is nuts. He is a crazy man.
Yeah. So yeah, again, those three fights are going to happen the 15th in Yokohama, Japan.
And
Again, I wanted to
before we
go ahead.
go, one reminder that we do have an Eye of the Tiger card out of Montreal Thursday, and they have a short-term broadcast deal with the Zone, so you will be able to see it. And it's kind of a whole buffet of various fighters under Eye of the Tiger management. You're going to see Stephen Butler. You're going to see Steve Claggett. And you're also going to see, remember this guy, Isaac Chilemba. So that's a good time. And if you got a DAZN subscription, what the heck?
Oh, wait a minute. Damn, I honestly thought Jalema retired at this
I
point.
thought he did too, really. Good guy, and he's, one of the many fighters who's relocated there to Montreal, where there's a pretty hot boxing scene. So Eye of the Tiger cards are always entertaining.
Indeed. You have listened to episode 480 of the Pound for Pound Boxing Report for Gail of nyfights.com, for Daniel of War Boxing News, and the Inscriber. I am your host, Michael. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.